In this talk, we want to explore some examples of the ways that the incorporated research institutions for seismology have increased the inclusivity of our summer undergraduate internship program in seismology and geophysics. And we also want to explore ways in which we feel like that has led to changes in the diversity of participation in our program. So how did we go about making our program more inclusive? Well, we used 4 key ingredients. 1, we were intentional about it. 2, we put in lots of work and effort to making that change. 3, we tracked data and collected data on where we were at to start so we could know when things were working. And finally, we allowed time and space for those programmatic changes to take place and see the results that we wanted to. So how did we get started? Well, the first thing that happened was in 2006, we got serious about making changes to the diversity of our program. We changed our program goal when we applied for REU site funding, or Research Experience for Undergraduate Site Funding from the National Science Foundation. And we added this bolded text to our program goal. We said that we were wanting to encourage more students representing a more diverse population to choose careers in earth science and seismology. And so we went further than that. We said specifically, we want to change the number of applications that we receive. So we're going to attract a more diverse population. And we also wanted to change the diversity of the students that we encourage to go into these career fields. And these are the actual interns. So how do we go about making changes to the number of applications that we receive and the number of interns that we place every summer to increase the diversity of those? Well, we began by being intentional. We said, okay, this is what we want to accomplish, so we're going to advertise that. We were very explicit, and we include language on our website that says we want a diverse population. We're excited to receive applications from students representing the full spectrum of society, as well as students with lived experiences, such as those with disabilities, veterans, and non-traditional students. We're also careful about the way we portray our field. So sure, fieldwork can be lots of fun. And for me personally, one of my things that attracted me to the geosciences was the outdoor element of it. However, we also need to acknowledge that fieldwork isn't for everyone. There are going to be lots of students that we're going to come across that either aren't interested in fieldwork or aren't capable of participating in fieldwork. And so we want to make sure that the imagery that we use in those examples shows students that are having success without having to be in the field as well. Additionally, we put a lot of effort into our recruitment. So in this case, targeted recruitment efforts such as our alumni speaker series were started up. We knew that the listservs weren't going to get it done. And so we sent the alumni of our program, who were underrepresented minority students, we sent them out to give talks at high Hispanic serving institutions and HBCUs, or historically Black colleges and universities, where we have large numbers of underrepresented minority students in physics and math departments who maybe haven't considered a career in geosciences. And so our alumni would go out, talk about their research, talk about their transition to coming to seismology and geophysics, and the ways in which they applied their undergraduate skills in math and physics to this new career path. A spin-off, in addition to getting applicants to our program and participants in our program, was that we also built partnerships with a number of these institutions that we've been able to build on. And so currently we have partnerships with Fort Valley State University, which is an HBCU in Georgia, and we're collaborating on a GeoPaths grant right now that they have to develop a geoscience major and to increase underrepresented minority participation in the geosciences. Another way that we begin to increase the inclusivity of our programs is simply to acknowledge that diversity is there and to demonstrate that we welcome it. So that may sound overwhelming, but it can be really simple. And so here's a really simple, basic example that we found to be effective. Dietary preferences and restrictions is something that we all face when we run programs. And so simply asking students about their preferences and their restrictions, and then meeting those preferences and restrictions when we provide meals during our programs, can be really powerful. Now, students are going to have these preferences for a variety of reasons. Some may be medical, allergies and whatnot, that they have to meet a certain set of criteria. Some may be cultural, and that they only eat certain things, and some may be pure preferences. But the fact that we acknowledge is that these differences exist and that we're able to accommodate them requires effort on our part, but it does demonstrate that diversity is welcome within our community. At a more substantial level, we can create more inclusive applications. So these are two examples of questions that we include on our current application that we feel help to make our program more inclusive and in turn contribute to our ability to recruit more students into our programs. So the first question is one of the ways is an adaptation of a question where we asked about previously work, activities, and awards, etc. And instead, we now ask, what qualities and characteristics will you bring to our program as a result of your work, activities, and other life experiences? So this is really important question because it allows students to express their own values, what they value about qualities and characteristics of themselves, and show how they're going to bring it to your program. And so they're not trying to meet your values, but instead they're expressing their own personal values that they have, which allows us to see a little more into who the students are. The second question that we ask is sort of a catch-all that we've added to the end of our application, and it creates space for students to express anything that they want us to know and understand about them. And this has been really important because as we increasingly recruit a more diverse applicant pool, there are more and more experiences that we couldn't possibly think to ask about, that we wouldn't realize that we should be asking about. And so this catch-all creates space for students to talk about that. So the question is, are there anything else that you would like us to know about you that hasn't already been covered? And so sometimes students use this space to talk about a semester where they had a poor GPA, or sometimes they talk about how their entire undergraduate career, maybe their grades aren't quite as in line with their abilities as they think, but it's because they are a non-traditional student, they work a full-time job or a part-time job and they raise a family. Or maybe it's because they provide elder care or child care for part of their day. So these are all spaces that we're creating to allow sort of people who might otherwise have seemed not competitive to come to our program. Again, related to the application is how we actually make selections of participants. So I'm not going to talk quite a lot about the actual nitty-gritty of the selection process, but sort of the overall approach that we take towards selecting our group of students. And so we use a portfolio optimization approach where we're seeking a heterogeneous grouping of students. We want some sure bet students. And if we think about a retirement portfolio, these students would be the bonds, right? They're going to give us a consistent return on our investment. However, we want to mix those bonds in with the spectrum of risk and reward candidates. So these are going to be more like stocks. And so we want to have a risk tolerance that is more of a growth portfolio. So 30% bonds or fewer, and 70% more of stocks or more of stocks, or students that are going to have some risk, but potentially offer great reward. And the benefit of using a portfolio optimization selection process is that we're emphasizing learning potential over past learning successes. And this is really important as we begin to attract a more inclusive, or begin to be more inclusive about the communities that we're reaching out to and offering them ways to participate. So not everyone is going to have the opportunity to be advised by a practicing seismologist in what coursework they should take or what research opportunities they should pursue. And so we want to create space for those students. We want to create space for students who maybe don't get the best grades in all of their quantitative classes, but show a demonstrated commitment to developing those skills, or students who have to balance life with their academics, or even as simple as how do alternative majors find their way into our program? So math and physics students who maybe don't have a lot of geoscience background, how do we create space for them and show their learning potential as being important in our program? And this is the portfolio optimization is one way we've gone about doing that. Other things that we ask about to increase our inclusivity is we ask questions about disability status of our students. And this is really to create a dialogue with students about how we can best accommodate them in our program. And we've had students with visual impairments, learning disabilities, a wide variety of things have come through our program over the years. And some of them impact the program on a very small scale, we had a visually impaired student that required us to have all of our slides prepared in advance so that we could have paper copies printed on large format paper so that they could actually see the slides while they were sitting at their desk, since they couldn't see to the screen. We've also had students that just required us to change our entire agenda slightly. So we've had autistic students in our program, and we needed to recognize the amount of effort that just participating in the regularly scheduled programming took on those individuals, and they needed a little more downtime built in for resting and recovery during our internship program. And so we changed the overall agenda for everyone so that nobody felt singled out, and yet we were able to support the needs of those individual students. And I would give this as a plug for the IAGD. This is a great resource, if you're not familiar with it, for supporting a wide variety of students in your programs with disabilities. Lots of suggestions and lots of help are available there. Finally, one of the other ways that we promote inclusivity in our program is with some of our pre-program housing surveys. So we ask some of the basic stuff about room temperature. Do you prefer? Socialization level? Are you neat or messy, etc. But we also use this as an opportunity to acknowledge gender and sexuality differences. So we ask about rooming preferences. What are our LGBTQ plus community going to be comfortable with? How do they want to, what sort of bathroom facilities are going to be important for them? Single room or group rooms, what are the most comfortable? And then we have to put in the effort within our programs to accommodate all of these student needs. And this, again, I think is really the important aspect, is putting in the effort to be able to accommodate a diverse population of students. Because I think the worst thing that we could do when running a program is to attract these students to our program, admit them into our program, and then not put in the work to be able to accommodate them in a way that makes them successful. And if they get turned off immediately, we're not really doing any service to the students who are participating in our program. So we want to make sure that we're accommodating them. Finally, one of the last pieces that I wanted to talk a little bit about is the anti-harassment and discrimination program that we've been developing in collaboration with the Oklahoma University REU program and the UC Boulder REU program. And this program is really designed to both educate and empower students around civil behaviors in the workplace. It emphasizes action, so students know how to report harassment and discrimination. And they also know how to respond as a bystander should they witness or experience incidents of harassment and discrimination. And finally, the important piece of running this sort of a curriculum is that as a program, it asserts your stand on these behaviors, and it makes your expectations explicit for everybody in the program so that we're all on the same playing field. And again, this increases the inclusivity of your program, which in turn allows students to be more successful and to feel comfortable participating in your program. And so where has all of this gotten us? Well, from our standpoint, it's gotten us some success. So this plot is showing the percentage of total applications. Those are the dotted lines shown on the plot, and the total percentage of interns, the solid lines on our plot. The blue color is showing the female applicants and the percentage of female applicants and female interns in our program, while the orange lines show the percentage of underrepresented minority applicants in our program and the percentage of underrepresented minority interns in our program. And as you can see, across both of the large groups, applicants and interns, we see an increase over time from 2006 when we began measuring all of this to 2020. And again, I would encourage you to look over the long period, because sometimes there's ebb and flow within the changes that you're making. And so you have to allow a little bit of time for these things to take effect. But it's important that we're able to document these changes and the changes that are happening as a result of the programming that we're putting into place, and we allow time for that to occur. So again, intentionality, effort, data, and time are really some of the key ingredients that we think that help make an inclusive educational program. And in turn, those inclusive educational programs create space and the desire for people to come to your program, which increases the diversity of your program.